Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we're discussing a ceramic titanium and sapphire limited edition of 100 pieces launched in 2010 from Jaeger-LeCoultre. This is the AMVOX5 Racing, a world time chronograph that was part of the 2002 to 2012 AMVOX series. These were not modifications of existing watches. These were bespoke, purpose-built, standalone models that were designed to reflect the long-term association between Jaeger Automotive Instruments and Aston Martin cars. So this was the first time that Aston Martin's logo appeared on a Jaeger product rather than the other way around. So this is not like a shotgun marriage between Blancpain and Lamborghini or Panerai and Ferrari. This reflects a decades-long association between Jaeger and Aston Martin for the first time embodied in watches. Aston Martin was also deeply into prototype and GT racing back in 2010. So this racing model incorporates some elements of the race cars, such as, for example, the orange accents. You can see there's a checkered flag motif on the chronograph counters. And of course, we do have Aston Martin branding on the sapphire running seconds disc. But let's talk about the basics. So the AMVOX5 is 44 millimeters in diameter, principally in ceramic. 15.5 millimeters thick. It is 49.5 millimeters from lug to lug. 23 millimeters is the spacing between the lugs. The world time chronograph is large, but not too large. If you've worn an AMVOX2, you know how these fit. I owned the AMVOX2. I loved that watch. This will fit a 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and you can see that easily. It's not as thick as you think, though it's by no means thin. It's very light, as titanium, ceramic, and sapphire are all very lightweight watchmaking materials. You can see that the strap features a overstitching and layers of material designed to resemble the technical fibers used in automotive steering wheels, shift knobs, seats, driving suits. And we've got a little bit of reflective material through the perforations on each side. We have a buckle, as you can see right there. Simple, quick adjustments, Jaeger-LeCoultre branded. There's a little bit of a contrasting binding stitch there. The strap's substantial with bolstering to give it volume, so it better stands up against this meaty watch. All of the hardware that you see is made of media blasted titanium, with the exception of the case back, where it's brushed, media blasted, and polished. The standard AMVOX5 was made in series of 200 and 300, depending on the variant. There were two versions of the AMVOX5 Racing, which is what this is. One had red accents and a white dial. One had orange accents and a black dial. This is the black dial version. You can see that we have little orange polymer inserts for the chronograph pushers. We have a push-down crown. The watch is 50 meters water resistant. The dial is abundantly luminescent, and there are two things going on with this dial. One is a sort of sideways glance at the Polaris 1968 diving alarm, and you can see that a little bit in the font used for the numerals. And then we also have radially arrayed numerals and indices like you'd find on the speedometer of an Aston Martin. You'll also note how the bottom of the dial doesn't feature indices or numerals, because a speedometer or a tachometer in a car would not be calibrated at its bottom. You can also appreciate the fact that we've got a case profile that looks a lot like the old Polaris, and that's intentional. You can also see that the watch is a combination of media blast matte ceramic with some very fine polished bevels as a detail. We've got this dramatic glass box sapphire that's designed to evoke the Polaris's plexiglass from the 1960s. On the dial side, you can see we've got a world time display. Aston Martin's modern day home at Gaydon, England is there in lieu of London for Greenwich Mean Time. Of course, traditionally, Aston Martin would have been at Newport Pagnell. Today, I think that's Tickford Street Works. It's where the classic cars go for service and where the vintage parts and restoration operation still stands. You can see we've got this little sapphire that is the running seconds display, and it has Aston Martin wings. Take a look at the dial, and you can see that it's a sort of inverse waffle. And then this waffle pattern reflects the grille of an Aston Martin automobile. And then the registers for the chronograph minutes and hours, they feature a checkered flag motif, just as you'd find in racing. The hands also, I believe these were called the controversial Calypso hand Polaris models. You can change your city of reference. The idea is that it sits down at the bottom. Now, I'm in Philadelphia, so I'm just going to keep New York, which is my U.S. East Coast reference time. Then we have a world time ring, 24 hours counterclockwise rotating. So you can see this is the Louis-Cotier world time system invented by the watchmaker of the same name in the 1930s. So I know, for example, that right now where I am in New York, it is 3 in the morning, and I know that, well, it's, 3 in the afternoon. Patek has its reference city up here. JLC has its reference city at the bottom. The key, if you want to remember, is this: your reference city is right side up. So you can see it's 3 in the afternoon, so I'm reading my time at center, and I can see 1500, that's 3 in the afternoon. I can see it's 2 in the afternoon in Mexico, and I can see it's 4 in the afternoon in Saint-Bot. I can also see that it is 8 o'clock at night in London, in Gaydon, England, so they're not at work making Aston Martins, and that's how you read this. The semicircle in white, the area is roughly where it is daytime. In black, the area is roughly where it is night, and you can see one side features a little divider, and that little divider right there helps you to mark the difference between day and night. Taking a quick look at how the chronograph works, you can see actually some of the movements visible under the dial, which is kind of cool, but it's a vertical clutch, so it starts without jump or stagger when you start the chronograph. It's a column wheel, so it's nice and crisp, and because it is a vertical clutch, you can leave it running on a full-time basis with no hazard, wear, or tear to the movement. Now you see when I pull the crown out, I activate the hacking or stop seconds. The chronograph stops, the running seconds display stops, and I also have a quick set so I can rapidly set the date should the watch run down or encounter an irregular length month. Inside, we have JLC manufacturer caliber 752, automatic winding with unidirectional action and ceramic rotor bearings, 65-hour power reserve, twin barrels for nice flat torque curve from max wind to minimum wind. There's not a lot of variation in its isochronous operation between max wind and minimum wind, 4 Hz beat rate, free sprung balance, vertical clutch and column wheel, 41 joules. It is a proper high horology manufacturer automatic chronograph, and just about everything about this movement was built with high horology and sports watch in mind. It was a clean sheet designed by Jaeger-LeCoultre. It's not a Frédéric Piguet, it's not a Zenithal Primero, it is their own movement. It's got their pedigree. And so you have a watch that is inside and out all Jaeger-LeCoultre, but it's also a little bit Aston Martin, because though the AMVOX series has completed decades and decades and decades of Aston Martin and Jaeger car instrument combos, still ply the roads of the world today. Finally, the Master 1000 Hours Control. This watch has been through that. That is a 1,000-hour test, the fully assembled watch for chronometry, water resistance, power reserve, winding efficiency, and overall durability. So the timepiece has been through a full vetting, spaced over 41 plus days of testing operation, not just 2 weeks like the COSC. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.